Hey guys, Diane here, and today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite authors, horror and thriller, and I'm just going to kind of give you a rundown of some of their books and why you should check them out if you haven't already. Okay, so first I'm going to go ahead and start with the honorable mentions, and these aren't necessarily thriller, they're more they're not necessarily horror, they're more thriller. So first we have Mo Hayder, and the only reason this is an auto by author. If I see anything with her name on it, I'm gonna buy it. Um, but I guess the reason why she's on my honorable mentions list is because I've honestly only read one book of hers, but it was phenomenal. And I have another book of hers, it's called Pop It, but I just haven't got around to reading it yet. So the original book I read of hers that put her on this list is The Devil of Nanking, and that book is so good. If you haven't read it, you're just missing out. You're missing out. There's not another book out there like it. The only thing I could possibly compare it to is In the Miso Soup, and they're literally nothing alike. So it's just one of those books that's completely out there on its own. It's amazing. It's wonderful. The story just like drags you in and you just want to keep it. I mean, it's just so good. So definitely Mo Hayder. And like I said, I've only read one book of hers, but that's literally all it took. So my next honorable mention is Scott Hawkins. And this is another author that I've literally only read one book of his, and that was The Library at Mount Char. And he has other books, but they're like textbooks. They're like how to work on computers. So, and it's funny because actually, after I read this book and then I found out like those are his other books, I was like, that makes oddly a lot of sense. So, but The Library at Mount Char, that's a crazy book, and it's kind of hard to put into words because it's so like creative, it's so off the beaten path and strange but funny, but it's a lot of different things all wrapped into one. It's almost like if I could say another book that it's like, I would say I can't really think of another book, but if I would say like a show, it's almost like it's a show on Netflix. It's like they have like superpowers. I forget what it's called actually. Oh, The Umbrella Academy. That's kind of of the vibe of The Library at Mount Char. But if you haven't checked that book out, if you haven't checked this author out, you definitely should. And then one of my other authors is Renee Denfeld, and I've read two of her books, The Enchanted and The Child Finder, and both of those books were so good. I guess they're kind of like a thriller. The Child Finder, she's trying to find a child, and The Enchanted is almost, that book's just, it's really like sad. It's almost like a drama, but not. You're still trying to kind of figure out like what's going on. I mean, both of those books are just amazing. I want to read every single book that she has. I haven't yet, but I will. And like I said, if I see her name on anything, I'm going to buy it because she just the way she writes, it's dark and it's disturbing, but at the same time, sometimes you don't even almost know like what's happening to the character. And then it's almost more disturbing because you're kind of seeing it through, in the child finder, you're kind of seeing it or you're kind of going through it with the child from a child's perspective. But then when it dawns on you, like, what's going on, it's almost worse because you're like, I'm sugarcoating this and it's horrendous. So she is amazing. Like I said, I'll read anything she does, anything she ever does, I'll read. And then one of my other honorable mentions, just because it's thriller, it's not horror, is Gillian Flynn. And Gillian Flynn, I know, is a popular name. I know a lot of people like her, but her writing is so solid. Her books are solid. You know, if you go into her books, you're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna see like some dark, crazy stuff. It's gonna twist and turn and be crazy. Like Gone Girl has always been one of my favorite books, just because it was so good. The movie was amazing. I just loved it. And last but not least is Kristopher Triana, and he's actually the author of Gone to See the Riverman, and I have a book review for Gone to See the Riverman on my channel. And that book was phenomenal. Like I've said, even in the book review, like that is I think a lot of these authors have created like one of a kind books that I loved. So I guess that's why I'm like, oh yeah, I need to read this. I need to read that. But I have so much on my TBR that like for whatever reason, you know, you just don't get to certain people you want to get to. It's like trying new restaurants that you really want to try, but you keep going back to like your favorite thing, like what you're in the mood for. So I guess that's kind of how it is. But so then next we'll get on to my top just favorite horror authors in general. Okay, so now for my top, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, for my top 5. So I'm going to start with Stephen King just because he's not necessarily an auto buy, but anything he does, anything he writes, like any show, anywhere I see his name, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to, you know, kind of decide if that's something that I want to read. Honestly, recently I haven't really been feeling a lot of his books. I didn't feel some of his old books. Like I heard so much about The Long Walk from so many people. And I read it and I struggled so much through that book. I'm actually shocked that I even finished it because I didn't like it. I wasn't into it. I just I didn't get the hype at all. But I mean, I would hear people talk about it. So I'm like, well, let me just try it. Maybe it gets better. And it didn't. I didn't like it at all. But he has so many good books. I guess I think that outweigh the bad. Like it was like, that's probably one of my all-time favorite books. If you see my channel, you know that I love that book. The Stand is amazing. Needful Things. I love Needful Things. It's so like encompassing. The characters are amazing. Everybody comes together. Like it feels very homey. I mean, you know, you have like some demon devil living there, but it's still like somehow it's still homey. So, I just wouldn't say he's necessarily like an auto buy. Like I read the first Wendy's Button Box. I wasn't really feeling that. Later was fine. There's nothing really wrong with it. Doctor Sleep, I wish it was more like The Shining. I wish it would have stuck more with Danny. But, you know, not something I was super into. But The Outsider I really love. So there's a lot of books that are like my top books that like he's created. So and it's Stephen King. He does so many like amazing things. So that's definitely like one of my top authors. Not necessarily an auto buy, but you know, a top author for sure. And then I'm going to move on to Michael McDowell. And Michael McDowell is amazing. He's dead, so he's not putting anything out new, but just for the Elementals alone, and then he had The Cold Moon Over Babylon, which they both were just amazing, phenomenal. He did the like screenplay for Beetlejuice, and so it's like a quirky, funny, dark humor, but at the same time, it's not funny and it's really dark. So like the Elementals, you know, that's been on a few of my lists. Cold Moon Over Babylon's been on some of my lists just because those are like two of my top favorite books. And the way he writes is really like inventive and fun, but also, like I said, really dark and atmospheric. So he's another, well, he's not an auto buy, but because he's dead, but just someone that I really enjoy. And then for my next pick is Nick Cutter. And Nick Cutter I love because he creates like these crazy worlds, it doesn't kind of seem crazy at first. It's kind of, you're kind of in reality, but then like you're sinking into another world because things are going lopsided or whatever. He does body horror really well. He creates these other worlds, these creatures, like these like hive minds. Like he just does some really cool stuff with the way he creates his books. And I've read like quite a few. I've read The Deep. Little Heaven's one of my all-time favorite books. I know that a lot of people, it's weird because I read the synopsis. Kind of glanced over the synopsis for Little Heaven. I was painting my bathroom or something, and I was like, oh, you know, I'll just start it. I read The Troop and I read The Deep, and I really enjoyed those. So I was like, well, let me just go to Little Heaven. But I don't think I really found another person that enjoyed that book. I didn't see really any other like reviews or anything, and I was shocked. I was like, man, this book is so good. How am I the only one? But so that's like one of my favorite ones. The Deep is amazing. I know that gets a lot of hype because it's good and it's creepy, and like I wish they would make that into a movie to where it would live up to even half of the book, because that book is so freaking good. And then I read The Breach. That's a little lesser known one. And that was pretty good. It was shorter. It was like a cabin in the woods, and um, something about a cabin in the woods. It's been a while, but so all of Nick Cutter's books I really liked, and he's definitely an auto buy because, as far as I'm concerned, he's done no wrong. So I think my top author, and actually none of these were really in any specific order, but I think one of my top authors, just because I just kind of discovered her like this past year, is Ania Ahlborn. And if you've read any of Ania Ahlborn books, you'll know that the way she takes you into the story, and the way that you're so concerned for these I want to say victims, the way you're so concerned for like the characters in her books, it's like so, I guess it feels so real, and you really kind of want to like try and save them. You kind of want to see what, are they okay? And they never are. I think I don't know, her books are just phenomenal. So I've read like 4 or 5. If You See Her, I've read Seed, which is one of my top books. That book was so dark and so good in so many ways. And what I really loved about all of them is like there's so much going on under the surface, and it all kind of culminates, and it just kind of bubbles over. So that's another fun thing that she does. But kind of rambling now, but I'm trying to think of all the other books I read at first. So I read The Devil Crept In, which I really enjoyed that. The Shuddering, which was an amazing winter read because it was like snowing, they're in a cabin, it's a creature feature, like one of my favorite things. And Brother, obviously, I made a video for Brother because it was amazing and I loved it. And then, like I said, If You See Her, and I've heard people kind of compare it to If You See Her, and the only really correlation I saw between the two was there's a house, like there's but besides that, like I didn't see a whole lot that those two books had in common. There wasn't the same vibe. There was, I guess, a tiny smidge of camaraderie in If You See Her, but that's barely, it's like teenage boys who are really kind of a-holes, so it wasn't anything like it to where they were really kind of coming together and had like a genuine connection. I guess if you see her, there's like I said, a tiny bit of that, but I didn't really see a whole lot of connection between the two. I think I just think there wasn't a whole lot in common there, but both really good books, both haunting in their own, different ways. But like I said, Ania Ahlborn, I think she's probably one of my favorite authors right now, just because, like I said, I just discovered her maybe a year ago, something like that. So I already know, like, if I see her name on anything, I'm going to read it, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to enjoy it, and it's going to be something that I just, couldn't put down. Hey guys, Diane here from the future, and I just realized that after uploading one of my videos for my top horror and thriller authors that I forgot one of my top horror authors. I don't know how this happened. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just wanted to kind of update that list and let you guys know the author that I left out was Catriona Ward. And like I said, I'm really so confused how I left her out because, as you guys may know, she's one of The Last House on Needless Street is one of my top favorite books of like literally all time. So I've only read 2 of her books. So The Last House on Needless Street, like I said, and Sundial. And they were both phenomenal. Obviously, I like The Last House on Needless Street better, but Sundial was amazing too. And I just love the way she writes characters, the way that you think you know what's going on, but you really don't. I love the way that she is very atmospheric. Like Sundial was set in the desert and it felt very hot. It felt very deserty. You felt very deserted out there. You were on your own. The Last House on Needless Street was kind of the same way. You were almost sequestered to the house. You were almost felt alone, even when there was other characters, but you almost felt alone with every person that you were with. Everyone was kind of like on their own, together but on their own. But yeah, she's definitely one of my favorite. I love the way she can take you into a story where you think you know what's going on, but come to find out it's just the complete opposite of what you thought you knew. So she's definitely an author that I will recommend all day, every day. And like I said, I'll read anything and everything she publishes. So yeah, I just wanted to add her to the list. So like I said, I am like flabbergasted I didn't add her earlier. I'm really not sure what happened, but so that's the end. That's literally my last author, that for now anyway. I'm sure I'll have to update this list, you know, as my reading goes on. But so if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.